Good morning everyone, hope you all had a fantastic weekend. So this week we are going to take a look at our beautiful Browning 725 Grade 5 Sporter. Okay, specs time. 30-inch barrels, 3-inch chambered, multi-choke, steel proof, everything we need. Comes with a very, very nicely figured stock with a lovely right-hand palm swell that measures just a gnat's over 14 3/4 on the scales at bang on 712, and we will just have a quick look at what it's bored at. 739, 9 inches from the breech. So fortunately, our apprentice Jack owns one of these. He's very kindly lent us it, so we're going to head out to Blyton shooting ground, give it a bash. So, unfortunately, my microphone died while filming our shooting scene, so we'll go into things in a little bit more detail. So we're going to start at the back of the gun, work our way forward. Recoil pad. It's nice and thin, which I like. I don't like to see a big, thick recoil pad, and it is quite nice and spongy. Stock dimensions. So, funnily enough, this had got just the right amount of cast on it for me. I normally struggle with Brownings and Miracu's. They tend to be a little bit too straight for me. However, it was a bit too high for me. But again, traditional of sporters, it's nothing else other than I'm not used to a high shooting gun. Obviously, traditionally, I've come from shooting side-by-sides, so I shoot something relatively flat. Unfortunately, you can't cast these because they have an aluminium tube that runs through the grip here for where the stock bolt goes through into the action. So, let's move on to the action now. 725 actions are slightly different, well, massively different from the previous 3, 4 and 525 actions. They are a lot shallower, and internally, mechanically, they are completely different. From a maintenance point of view and working on the point of view, we do prefer the older models, probably just from comfort, because we get used to everything, but these mechanically are different inside. The only thing I didn't like about this gun was the forend, okay? I like to shoot with my finger wrapped around the end of the forend. It's just my style, and this just doesn't suit me. So I was having to shoot well off the forend up here, which does make it makes it slightly longer for me. I did shoot quite a lot of gun up with it, but yeah, That's my only complaint. However, I mean, it is nicely done. Obviously, there's that lovely little bit of engraving on the fore-end catch. Barrels, so 30 inch, I mean, perfect length. I know I shoot at 32. It is slightly barrel heavy. So if we just come off the edge of the fore-end, just about there. See, you were just teetering there. Okay, so you're just in front of the joint pin by about 1/4 of an inch. But when you mount it up, you can't really tell. I mean, the difference in balance there is minuscule. But it has a nice feel to it. It moves really nicely. So yeah, and patterning-wise, I mean, I shot 1/2 and 1/4 choke, which is what Jack shoots all the time. He'd left in his, the Invector DS chokes. And as you saw, a lot of stuff was powder. So with those Pro 1 7.5s plastic wads, it did pattern really, really nicely. So obviously, for your £5,300, you get the gun, and you also get the lovely Browning case. I'll do a close-up video of that for you. In the case, obviously, you get all of your Browning paperwork, your trigger lock, and your Invector DS chokes and key. The case is nice. I mean, I do really quite like the case. Obviously, it's nothing special, but it's lined really nicely, and I like the finish on it. So, £5,300. I mean, it's top end of the market. Classification-wise, this is a difficult one. I mean, I don't know where I wouldn't class this as a sporter. It's one of those guns that it's for somebody that wants something that looks really nice, and they want to do a bit of pigeoning, a bit of clay shooting, and a bit of game shooting. It's not an out-and-out sporter like the XS Pro or the Pro Master, and I quite like that. It's not heavy. It's, you know, it's sub £8, and yeah, it's not one of those guns that when you're going to go get game shooting, a bit like my Caesar that weighs like £8.10, it's an absolute brute to move around. And again, when you're clay shooting, it's not a heavy, heavy gun to be carrying around all day, and I really like that. So for me, again, it's probably a bit like the Invictus 9. I would say this is just a really pretty, slightly heavier game gun with that wide rib and that palm swell. And yeah, again, obviously, I really like the engraving on that. That scroll engraving is beautiful. Gold adjustable trigger, lovely piece of wood. I mean, this one's fairly straight grained, as you can see there, but it's got a nice bit of colour to it, and it does stand out well. Looks a lot better in the flesh, especially in the sun. It's got a real, real nice finish to it. And while we're talking about finish, I mean, all the wood to metal fit there is done really nicely. There's no gaps. You know, everything works well. Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very well put together gun. I mean, it's Browning. It's been around for ever. You would like to think so. But yeah, I mean, I really like it. This will be my first time actually shooting a 7.25. I've obviously shot 5s and 4s and 3s and B25s, but this is actually my first time shooting a 7.25, and I've really enjoyed it. It's a lovely, lovely gun, and it looks well. I mean, it's one of those guns that it is going to stand out a bit when you get it out your slip, and it's something you can be proud of as well. And I think that's a big thing with shooting. You've got to have something that makes you excited about it, and that is one of those guns, really. I mean, I could get excited about pulling that out of its slip and standing on a peg with it, or in the pigeon hide, or clay shooting, and it's, yeah, I've really, really enjoyed shooting it. Obviously, big thank you to Jack, our apprentice, for very kindly lending us his 7.25. So yeah, so I will pop a link to the gun on our website in the description below, and thank you very much for watching this week, guys, and we'll be back to you next week with another video.